Hello and welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Bill Staten, and today is December the 12th. I'm joined by my world famous partner here, Brando Reyna. You are world famous, aren't you?
I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch, but I'll take
Stretch.
it.
And we're going to share with you our monthly thoughts on the stock market and the economy. Navari Capital Management is a registered investment advisory firm headquartered here in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. We create customized portfolios for individuals, families, and nonprofit organizations with an emphasis on individual stocks and bonds. We also provide investment, retirement planning, and estate plan reviews. The information we're providing here today is for general information purposes only, and all expressions of opinion here are subject to change without notice in reaction to changing market conditions. So Brando, once again, and we're leading in right before Christmas.
That's right. How you doing?
Oh, fine. I got a funny story to lead in with, at least I hope it is. The guy comes in and says, "You're going to the hospital," said the doctor. "But I don't want to go to the hospital," I said. "Why not?" said the doctor. "I might catch something," I said. "You've already got something. You need to stay for at least 24 hours so we can keep an eye on you." And I said, "Why can't I just keep an eye on myself?" But the doctor was stronger than I was, so he sent me to the hospital anyway, where they kept an eye on me for 24 hours. Brando and I were talking about it earlier today. There's all this buzz about cryptocurrencies and why they may be good and why they may not be good. But listen to this. Globally, there are more than 9,300 cryptocurrencies, and there are still more and more being developed every day. They operate internationally in what's known as hyperspace. So between these 9,300 plus cryptocurrency, this implies, Brando, more than 40 million possible exchange rates.
That's unbelievable.
It really is. If one wanted to convert from one currency to another, now contrast more than 40 million possible exchange rates with 180 government-sponsored currencies worldwide, requiring about 15,000 exchange rates. 15,000 exchange rates roughly versus more than 40 million. I mean, look at the difference. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah, the complexity just grows exponentially each time you add another one. And it's, the crypto, like, there's been a lot of discussion, particularly as of late, with some of the companies in the crypto space going bankrupt. But it's the innovation is really unique, right? And I don't think we discount. We're not throwing that out the window. But in terms of what's backing those currencies or what makes those different from each other, I mean, there's still so much to be learned, and keeping all those actors in play just creates a tremendous amount of complexity. I mean, we've talked about how keeping it simple oftentimes is the right answer.
Yes, it really is. And that leads into one of the points we want to make there. There seems to be so much chaos, and that seems to be a chaotic arena right there.
Yeah.
But chaos can often create opportunities. And that leads us into talking about optimists, which we are, looking at the ways to take advantage of things. And pessimists typically don't do well at almost anything they try. And Brando and I were talking about it before we came on. Imagine what might happen with all of us if we quit worrying about things we can't do anything about.
Yeah.
And we have zero control over, and we quit obsessing over things that don't really matter and just focused on the things we have some control over and the things that we can do something about. And that comes to your portfolios. Those are things we can do something about, things that we do have control over in terms of keeping you in what we believe to be top quality dividend growing stocks, and we hope that gives you peace of mind, particularly during this holiday season, which sometimes can tend to be a little bit hectic.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I was thinking, when we were talking a little bit about the discussion topics, I thought afterwards, after you left my office, the whole idea of chaos creating opportunity. I mean, if we think about going back to 2008, 2009, and how much chaos there was in the housing market, and then we look at how some of those stocks did from the bottom of 2009 when, I mean, you remember this just as well as I do. In March of 2009, housing was, I mean, you couldn't touch it. It just had two black eyes. Everybody wanted it. There's way too much inventory. It's going to take years to get through this cycle, all that stuff. Housing touches so much of the economy, this and that and so forth. And if you looked at simple home building company like Home Depot or Lowe's, like what they were selling at when everybody was in chaos, and those relative returns going forward for the next 10 years, I mean, those are pretty healthy.
Sure were.
It definitely created some opportunity.
It sure did. And that leads us into the slide that's coming up by Sir John Marks Templeton. That this time is different. And so many times we were saying, today is different from last year, and last year is different from the year before. And it's true that every period has some differences, but when we look at economic and stock market history, they always have so much more in common than they do in terms of differences. People tend to get overly pessimistic, for example. They tend to think if things seem to be bad, they always think that things are going to get worse. They have a hard time thinking that things can actually turn around and get better. If they have a wound, the wound is going to get worse and continue bleeding, that it can't possibly be stopped.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to bring up that quote, which comes from a book that John Templeton wrote way back in 1933.
Yeah.
So this time is different. He called it the four most dangerous words in investing.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think you said earlier that we're optimists, which is 100% true. I tend to think that us being optimists is also contrarian, right?
Good point. I hadn't thought about that.
It allows us to look at things differently than the masses, and probably take a little bit different positioning when we're looking at stocks and companies and constructing portfolios. And in the end, I think if you want to do better, you want to put together a quality portfolio, you have to be a little bit contrarian in taking a different viewpoint than what everybody else is taking.
Mm-hmm. That's really a strong point. I pointed out to a client this morning, we had a long conversation about stocks and the economy and portfolio and so forth. And I pointed out that Morningstar, one of the services that we've used ever since I've been in the business, and I'm now in my 52nd year, this year they have made some reductions in a few of our stocks. They reduced the estimated fair value. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, 3 of our stocks, they reduced the estimated fair value by 1 point each of the 3 stocks. But the flip side of that is a number of the stocks, they have upgraded the fair value by decent percentage points. They just recently said they're going to substantially upgrade Walmart's fair value, which I take to mean will probably be an 8 or 10% increase in fair value. So the percentage increases in fair value, I think, Brando, have been significantly higher than the decreases in fair value. But what gets all the press? The decreases, not the increases. And that's what people tend to overlook.
Yeah, I think we're just human nature is hardwired to have a stronger reaction to negative news and negative impetuses versus positive stimulus. If you think about, I think about it like, as evolution or caveman days, like the person who heard the rattle behind the bush and stayed away from the rattlesnake that was back there, they survived and kind of went on.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there's definitely an element, like, we definitely feel negative impact stronger than we do on positive side, but it's, in terms of investing, you know, defaulting back to that emotional response oftentimes is the wrong path to go.
Yeah, and we see it quite frequently. We see how we believe investors have misperceived negative things about a
Yeah.
company and caused the valuation to be way below what
Yeah,
you know, we think is reasonable.
yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that we like to continue to emphasize with you, we like to stick with the best, so what we believe to be the best in companies, so that you can rest and not have to be concerned about what the market is doing, the ups and downs, and what the Fed is doing, or what everybody thinks they're going to do, and so forth and so on, to make it as worry-free with your holdings as we possibly can make it. And again, that comes from owning solid companies with strong balance sheets as we assess them, and companies that continue to raise their dividends year after year through thick and thin.
Yeah, we had talked about bringing this point up earlier, picking individual securities. I think, and I know I've heard you say this multiple times, a lot of times investors will get nervous because they say, you know, the market's going to go down, or the market is, you know, got this issue or that issue or whatever it is. We're not owning the market.
Right.
We're picking individual securities, and at the same time, you know, we're absolutely going to get some wrong, and I don't think any of our investors really think, nobody's expecting us to bat 100, but the idea is this: when something pivots or changes, we make those adjustments as well. You know, we keep looking forward to move to the next step and the next step, and keep moving in a positive direction, and trying to do the best we can.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But an example of the, you know, the best, the finest, and this was somebody else wrote this, and I never really thought about it, but McDonald's is really a high-tech company when you think about it, even though you think about them having fast food joints
Yeah.
all over the world. They happen to sell more burgers than anybody else in the world. They've raised a dividend for many, many decades. They have a very, very sturdy balance sheet. But if you look at all of the technology they have in their units to turn around food faster and
Yeah.
make it clean and sanitary and so forth, there's a lot of technology that has gone into their business, both at the unit level and also at the headquarters level. But you just don't think of it as being a high-tech company.
Yeah.
A high-tech company that sells fast food.
Yeah,
But they really are.
Yeah. They've done a really good job of incorporating and modifying their business.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they used to have the signs that said billions served, or billions and billions of hamburgers
Yes.
served? I wonder if they'll ever get to a point where they're just like, we've sold a lot of hamburgers.
We've sold so many burgers, we've lost count.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that kind of, I think, does it for Brando and me as we head into Christmas. Just less than 2 weeks from today, but wanted to close with a great philosopher, Yogi Berra, who was catcher for the world champion Yankees back when I was growing up. They were my favorite baseball team. And this advice strictly applies to Brando and me. This is one of his great quotes. If you ask me anything I don't know, I'm not going to answer. So happy holidays to all of you. We thank all of you for being with Navarre, and just have a wonderful Christmas season, happy Hanukkah season, and just stay safe and enjoy it to the max, and relax. And we're here for you. Let us worry about your portfolio so you don't have to. Take care, and God bless.